Okay, this is take 2 of free coaching Q&A Friday. Um, Hopefully my connection will be fine. So anyway, the question that was asked for today, and if you hop on, let me know if you have questions, either now or on the replay. Send me a message or make a comment. We can talk more about it. The question is, how do you keep yourself intact when people judge you wrongly and or unfairly and try to put you down when you deserve better? The follow-up when I asked what does intact mean is not to be hurt or feel self-doubt or anger when these things are thrown at you because your self-knowledge and integrity know it isn't true. So how to maybe not react. So there's a lot going on there, and that's a really important question. It's something that's very relatable, that we are all judged. The very first thing that I would say to that is that judgments are never about us. They're always about another person. So when we decide to perceive a reality, it's because we are matching whatever is inside of us. So it doesn't matter a lot what we are doing. It matters what the other person is thinking. So I could be the kindest person in the world, but if the person I'm interacting with believes that I'm being judgmental or contradictory, then that's what they're going to receive from me. It doesn't matter what I do or what I say, because they are filtering their reality through that. That is different than taking personal responsibility for our being and our actions. Completely different. So that's important to recognize. This is not about you. This is about them. Okay. And that should ease some of that, pressure or hurt feeling, especially if it's someone who's close to you, to know that. And we're going to come back to that in just a second. Give yourself permission to have what you deserve. So if someone is judging you, maybe putting you down, think to yourself, what is it that I do deserve right now? And then give that to yourself. Whether that is affirmations, whether that is food, whether that is a break from working, a break from talking, whether that is exercise, a mud mask, breaking something, screaming, singing loudly, whatever it is that you deserve right now, take that for yourself and give it to yourself. Write yourself a letter. Let yourself know. And then you can ask yourself, is there a boundary that needs to be set? So, is this person crossing a boundary that I want to let them know that they're crossing? Do I need to let go of this relationship so that I'm not available for this boundary any longer? Do I need to let them know what the boundary is because maybe they're not sure? And are you coming from a space of trying to convince them? So I'm going to convince you that that judgment is not true about me. I'm really a kind person. I'm really an organized person. I really have been hearing you or listening to you, or whatever it is that the judgment is coming from. If I come from a space of trying to convince them, there's a certain energy to that where I'm being defensive. And the message that's going to come across is that I'm being defensive because they are right. And so it's important to step back and take that time and really acknowledge yourself, give yourself what you deserve, think about your actions, and then come from this space of, this was my intention. This is what I was trying to do. Is there a way I can do this better? So that you're not convincing them, you're just saying, this is who I am, and how does this dynamic work better for us in the future, if they're willing to have that conversation. So I want to talk about an example from my life that is related to this question. I had a friend of mine, a very soul-connected friend of mine, someone I would say is one of the most influential people that I have ever met before. This year, a few months ago, tell me that they felt like I was one of the most condescending people in their lives. And when I got that, I got it through a text. And when I got it, it was one of those moments of like, I quit breathing. I felt butterflies in my stomach. It felt awful. It felt so awful to be called condescending, because that's something that I really don't want to be, right? That goes against so many of my values. And B, it was coming from one of the most important people to me in my life. And so hearing that from him, I felt like, oh gosh, I'm a really shitty friend, because that's his experience of our relationship right now. So that was really hard. Now, what happened after that was I sat with it. So I took time. I'm going to go through these steps again. I recognized, first of all, okay, this is not about me being condescending. This is about his experience of feeling condescended. It doesn't matter if that's my fault or his fault. It's not about whose fault it is. That's not the point. The point is that it's about his experience, and I allow him to own that experience, and I allow myself to own mine. And I don't take responsibility for him feeling condescended. So that was the first thing I had to do, is to separate myself from the pain that I felt in hearing that at first, and the shock value was to say, okay, I know that my intention as a being is not to create a space for people to feel condescended, and that I don't have control over that, and allow him to have that experience. That's fine. I have no control over that. And I respect and love him enough to give him that time and that space. Because whatever feeling he's having, it's for a reason, and that's okay. So for me to try and convince him that I wasn't condescending or react in that moment wouldn't have actually been honoring or respectful of him, because that's his feeling. It's completely valid. I don't have to agree with it. In fact, I don't really get the option to agree with it or not. It's his experience. I don't have to understand it. But if I want to be a good friend, I'm going to empathize with it. I'm going to say, okay, this is what he's experiencing right now. I know that for me, this is what feeling condescended is like. I wonder what it's like for him. So from there, I gave myself what I deserved. I considered what he said to me. There was a couple of very specific examples that he gave me, and I considered, okay, what do I need to own so that I can do better in the future? And what is also true in these moments that I did well? And so I gave myself permission to be wrong in some situations, but only the ones that I decided were my mistake. I didn't decide that every single thing that he told me was true about me. I never did that. What I did instead was I looked at it from my own perspective, and I said, what is true for me that I do want to work on, that I do feel like I made a mistake with, and what do I not really resonate with right now? And I gave myself what I deserved in that moment. I allowed myself to make mistakes, and I owned what I'm actually good at as well. I took a bath. I took some deep breaths. So I cared for myself. I acknowledged my feelings. Because here's the thing, we can never not react or respond. That's part of our human experience, and it's sometimes uncomfortable. But if I decide that I don't want to feel bad about that, or I don't want to feel guilty about that, then I cannot look well and truly at what happened from my perspective or his. And it's almost like this, when we push something away, it starts coming back to us. It's like this repelling motion. I think we talked about that last week as well. If I avoid feeling, I'm just going to hold it. I'm going to feel that way later. I might resent him later. I might feel insecure that I'm going to be doing the same mistakes in my other relationships. I might sabotage other relationships because I don't want to feel that pain, so I'm going to do something before somebody calls me condescending again. It comes out in other ways that I may or may not be conscious of. Maybe it comes out as pain in my back or pain in my stomach or whatever physical response I have to that. So reacting and having emotions is something we have to allow, and it's okay. It's okay to feel whatever. In that moment, my first reaction was that I felt guilty and sad. And then we'll get to the next part. So I recognized it was about him. I gave myself what I deserved and what I needed. I recognized my feelings. I allowed them to be without judgment. And then I asked myself, is there a boundary here for me? And the boundary for me that had been crossed was not communicating about it. So two things going on. What maybe he needed in this situation was some time to process and be able to articulate what was happening. For me, what was going on is that I have a boundary with my close friends, that we have communication and that we talk about things so that they don't become unclear or resentful, and that one of my intentions is that through my friendships we are growing and becoming better people, and both of us are supporting that for each other. And if that's not happening, then something needs to shift in the friendship, or we need to let go of it. So the communication wasn't there. That was a boundary for me that I felt crossed. So to ask for that boundary, I decided to respond to him. And I first acknowledged, I hear where you're coming from. I hear that this is your experience. I acknowledged the things that I felt I did wrong. Not every single thing that he told me I did wrong, but the things that I agreed with, that I thought, yeah, I probably could have phrased that better. I probably shouldn't have said that at all. That was a moment of not making a good choice for me, not being respectful or whatever it was. I owned those, and I apologized for them. And then I asked some clarifying questions. What else was about your experience so that I can understand it better? How can I act or be or show up differently so that we are on the same page with my intention, which is not to be condescending, but to be a person who gives you feedback, who loves you, who asks questions to know that you're living your best life, because I honor and respect and admire who you are, and because that's an intention of our relationship. I also came from this space of knowing that this might not go as fast as I want it to be. So I'm in this really uncomfortable position. One of my very favorite people on the planet have told me that I'm condescending. This is not where I want to be. This is not a comfortable feeling, right? But I need to honor that this might not, I want this over now, and it might not be over now. So allowing myself to feel that way. And I wasn't trying to convince him. I can't convince him that I'm not condescending. I really can't. All I can do is say, okay, I'll own this stuff. I want to make this stuff better. I'm committed to you. I'm committed to our relationship. And do you want to work on this and make it better? And give him the option, because it's his choice. Everybody has free will. I can't take this training and force you to apply it and change your life, right? All I can do is give information and energy and suggestions and invitations and allow you to make that choice. So that's what I did with him. And then here's a really important piece of it. Let me say one more thing. So empathizing with his experience, saying, apologizing for what I did feel like I did wrong. And if he had said nothing that I really agreed with, I wouldn't have apologized, because I'm only going to apologize. I respect this person and honor this person enough that I'm only going to apologize to him when it's sincere. Not because I want to get past something, not because I'm uncomfortable in a conflict, because that's just me trying to not feel comfortable, or sorry, trying to not feel uncomfortable anymore. That's just me trying to blow past something that feels painful. And again, that will end up in me storing it here, me maybe feeling like I can't tell the truth or have an honest discussion with this person in the future. And is that really a friendship that I want to be in? No, it's not. So, had I not felt like I made any mistakes, I would not have apologized. But I did make some mistakes. So I apologize for the ones that I did. I cut out and then I drank some water and I drank it wrong. Okay, so I apologize for what I did make mistakes with. And then I asked what he needed in the future. So if someone is making a judgment and I want to continue that relationship, I want to say, okay, what do you need in the future so that your experience is different? That's allowing that person to have a personal responsibility for their experience and to be able to voice what it is that would change that for them. Because again, the judgment is not about me, it's about him. Can we talk about this so that I understand how to show up in a way that supports you feeling supported and loved and honored and respected and admired, not condescended, not judged? Okay. And the last piece of that was that deciding it was okay if he didn't want to engage anymore. And that is a lot easier said than done. Again, this is a person who is one of the most influential people I've ever met. He's a really, really dear friend to me. I, of course, want our relationship to be in my life. I have high intentions for us supporting each other. And there's two people who are agreeing to be there. And I can't force him to. I don't even want to force him to. I want my friends to choose to show up and be in my life because they want to be. So I can say, this is what I would like to do, and accept that he may choose to have that conversation and he may not. And to know that if he does choose not to have it, if he chooses not to have me in his life, then somebody else will choose to have me in their life. And they will want to talk about this stuff. And they will work through conflict. So just like if I had a physical, like if I have a candle on my coffee table and I kind of like the smell of it, but I don't use it very often. It's not the color that I really want it to be. It's still taking up that space. If I move that, and what I can do is I'm like, well, I fought with my roommates to keep the candle there in the first place because I fought with my roommates to have that candle there because I felt like it was something that was really important to me, and if I decided to move it now, then I would be wrong. Or, we grip onto our relationships because we're attached to them, and that makes sense because they're important to us. That's okay to feel. But as long as I have that candle there that I really don't like and my roommates don't really like, I can't maybe put a houseplant or a book or something else that I'm actually going to use and enjoy. So as long as I grip onto this relationship where one person is feeling condescended, and I just don't want the relationship to end because it's painful, then I might be missing out on giving that space to somebody else who's willing to have the conversations that I really want to have in my deepest desires and wildest dreams. That's the friendships that I want. So I have to be okay with the possibility that he's going to choose not to show up to this relationship anymore. I have to let go of that and be okay with it. So that's what I did. And I'm going to pause the story and I'll tell you the end of it. But first I have practices, tangible practices that you can use to do these things. Number 1, being okay with feeling mad. Labeling your emotions. So label how you feel. I feel shocked. I feel angry. I feel disappointed. I feel judged. I feel hurt. I feel unseen. I feel disrespected. Label all of that. Write about it. Say, without editing it, because you're not going to do anything with this writing. You're just going to vent. You're going to rant. You're going to say, this pissed me off. I felt like this. I wanted to scream at you. I wanted to cuss at you. I can't believe we've known each other for 25 years and you think this of me. How dare you? And just let it out. Let that be okay. Let it move through you. Scream. Go for a run. Punch something that doesn't hurt you. Let that out in whatever way works. Writing is super important. Labeling your emotions is super important. I definitely encourage you to do those two things. Second thing, imagine what it's like to feel those judgments. Imagine what it's like to feel those judgments, because it's about them, which means if I tell you that you think I am a bad mother, then on some level, I'm judging myself as a bad mother. Imagine what that would feel like to be judging yourself as a bad mother. How much pressure, how much guilt, gosh, how much sadness, how shut down I would feel if I were judging myself as a bad mother. So to build your empathy, think of the other person and imagine that's on some level, that's what they're feeling. On some level, they're feeling that judgment about themselves. So build your empathy by imagining that. Third thing, imagine making eye contact and breathing with that person until you feel it shift. So you're literally going to shut your eyes. Imagine that that person is right in front of you. Really look at them, make eye contact, and just breathe with them. There's a reason that humans connect. We're wired for it. I'm not going to go into that. It would take too long on this video. But there's a reason why we connect. Probably this person, if their judgment matters to you, it's either a person you work with, it's a family member, it's a friend of yours, it's someone that you have in your life that you have to deal with or you want to keep in your life. There's a reason why you chose to have them there. So close your eyes and look at them and connect with the humanity, with the making mistakes, with the having emotions, with the hobbies that brought you together, with the sameness that you have, with simply the fact that you have the same type of body system and pain and joy as everyone else. At some point in time, if you continue to look them in the eye and you continue to breathe with them, at some point in time, you will make that human connection and you will start to feel the release of attachment from those emotions. Because relationship is always more important than the emotions. The relationship is always more important than the emotions. Emotions come and go. They change. They might change rapidly. They might not for a long time. But those are energy in motion. Relationship is the important piece. That's why we're here underneath all of those emotions. If I didn't care about that person, I wouldn't have felt those emotions. The relationship is what's important. So keep making eye contact until you feel that shift, and you will feel it. And then just spend a few deep breaths connecting with them again. Come back to the reason why you know them, why we are all the same, why we are human. Okay, next idea. There's a mantra I want to give to you guys. The mantra is this: the important stuff stays. The important stuff stays. I don't know in the future the reason why this person, this job, this pet, this situation is supposed to be in my life, or if it's supposed to be in my life for a certain amount of time, or what that is like. So the important stuff stays. People as well. If there's not something better out there, then this relationship will keep going. If there is something better out there that's meant to take up this space, then this isn't the important stuff. The important stuff is still coming, or is maybe something else I'm not focused on. The important stuff stays. And the last practice is to journal what it's like to be loved and appreciated in whatever role you're in. So whether it's a person judging you who is your boss, who is your friend, Who is your lover? Who is your family member? Journal, what do you want that to look like? In a perfect world, if you wrote the story, you are the star of your own screenplay, you are the leading role. How do your friends treat you? How do your friends treat you? How do they show up? What language do they use with you? What things do you do? How do you know that they appreciate and treasure you? How do they show that? How do you show that back to them? What does that look like? And be as detailed as possible. Because if you don't know what you want, then we don't know what to ask for. And we also become a lot better friends. If I recognize what I want, then it's easier for me to give that to somebody else as well. So, all of those ideas, all of those practices, 1, 2, 3, 4, all 5 of those practices you can use. And I'll tell you what happened in my situation with this person is he didn't respond to me for a really long time. And that felt hard. I went through a lot of emotions. I felt hurt. I felt disappointed. I missed him. It was really painful. Then I felt mad. I felt angry that I felt like I had been judged, that he was feeling condescended, but I felt like calling me condescending was a judgment, and that if he saw that in me, then gosh, who else is he seeing? Because that's not who I am, and how dare he be my friend and know me as well as I think he does and still think that that's who I am. It felt really hard for me, and I ended up letting go and deciding some really important things about friendship for me that I wanted in my life. And it was a few months later, it definitely was not overnight. It was like, I think almost 4 months later, we reconnected over something different. And almost 6 months later, we finally had a conversation about our friendship and what it looked like and what we wanted. And I feel a lot better about it now. I know what I want. I understand more about his experience. We talked about what we need or what we want in a relationship so we can support each other better. And had this never come up, and had this judgment never come up, or we had never talked about it, I probably wouldn't be as strong. And so cool. For now, this relationship is something that's in my life. I don't know about the future. I don't know if it's the important stuff that stays. But what I do know is that when judgments come up, we can use them to make ourselves clearer, to make ourselves stronger. We can respond in a way that turns into a really powerful shift and transition in our lives for ourselves and for our relationships, or just for ourselves. And that the other person has to choose to be part of that or not. So the original question, how do you keep yourself intact? You don't keep yourself intact. You allow yourself to fall apart. You allow yourself to be given what you deserve from you. You ask for help and support from the people around you, the people that you trust. And and you allow the possibility that judgment will actually make you or your relationship better or different. You don't stay intact, because that's not what humans do. Humans fall apart and they rebuild, and they fall apart and they rebuild. That's the whole point of being a human, is that we are impermanent. Our feelings are impermanent, our buildings are impermanent, our bodies are impermanent, our works are impermanent. Like, there is nothing that lives on and on and on except for our stories, which is why I told you one of those today, and why yours matters, and why the judgments matter. Even if it's a judgment made about me, that story is important, because someone calling me condescending made me a way better person. So if I would have not allowed myself to fall apart and be fully in that, then I wouldn't be as good as I am now. I wouldn't be as supportive. I wouldn't be as reflective. I wouldn't have as many skills in non-attachment. I wouldn't be as great. I mean, I would be great in other ways. I'm not saying I wouldn't be good enough, but I love the gifts that I got from that, from falling apart, from not staying intact. So it's okay if someone judges me wrongly or unfairly. It's okay if they put me down, and that's a judgment call or a perspective that I have if someone puts me down, because I can use that to love myself more. And it's a process, which is why this video is not 2 minutes. It's probably a half an hour or something. So that's what I have for you today. Recognize it's about them. Give yourself what you deserve. Ask yourself if there's a boundary and how willing are you to let go. And you do these practices. Label what you're feeling, allow it to be so, express it with your body movement and in writing. Imagine what it's like to feel those judgments that person said, so you're empathizing with them. And imagine making eye contact and breathing with them so you connect and rehumanize each other and come back to the foundation of what it's like to be in a relationship with other people. Use the mantra, the important stuff stays, and journal what it's like to be loved and appreciated. What is that like for you specifically? What does it look like, so that you know how to show up and how you want other people to show up, and you will attract that. Let me know your questions and your comments, and I'll see you next Friday, and come up with what you want me